Welcome back, dear students. Today we will be studying past perfect progressive. As you remember from our last lesson, we studied past perfect, present perfect, progressive, and present perfect. Now today it's time for past perfect progressive. When we talked about past perfect, we said that we use that tense when we want to talk about an event, action that happened before past simple. And when we were talking about this action using past perfect, we were talking about a short action, actually. In fact, in all tenses that we're talking about, actually, when we make a tense progressive, for example, present progressive, present continuous, past progressive, past continuous, present perfect progressive, and past perfect progressive, we actually make the short action a long one. We want to talk about a long action. We use those progressive, continuous form of our sentences. And it's the same with past perfect, actually. This was past perfect. Now I want to show you first on our timeline, how do we use past perfect progressive? Here, I want to say that this is past simple. And let's say that this was past perfect. Now I want to show you past perfect progressive. It happened for a while in the past. It happened for a while in the past. But the past we are talking about is before past simple. Which means actually the ultimate past, actually, when we're using past perfect. The ultimate, you can memorize it or to make it easy to remember, ultimate past. Past perfect and past perfect progressive. You can remember it like that easily. How do we make this sentence? In grammatical structure, we use, of course, our subjects first. Then, my subject doesn't matter in past perfect, progressive, and actually in past perfect, had. Then I add been and verb ing. It differs from past perfect because we use been, we add been to the sentence, and I don't use verb 3, but instead I use verb ing. Now I want you to understand better, so I will give you an example. I had been sleeping for 8 hours. I said 8 and wrote 7. 8 hours when you knocked on the door. Similar to using past simple and past continuous in the same sentence, we're talking about almost same at the same time, but the different thing about here is that it happened before. When we use when in past simple and past continuous, when we want to combine them in a sentence and give the meaning that they're happening at the same time. But here we are talking about this. Let me show you. I had been sleeping for 8 hours when you knocked on the door. This happened before this. Actually, we can also use before here. In fact, before is better here. And this is my long action. This is my short action. Let's give another example. When my father decided to retire, he had been working for 25 years. I'm looking at my sentence, the first sentence actually, till comma. When my father decided to retire, I see a past simple structure in here because I saw verb to here and it's not progressive, so this is past simple. Decided to retire, comma. He had been working for 25 years. I saw my past perfect progressive here. I used had, I used been, and my verb ing. And here is for. Where else do we use for? You can remember it from present perfect or present perfect progressive. We also use there, and to give the meaning of a duration, how long it's happened. And it gives the same meaning here. So I can make my timeline. Here, he had been working, started here 25 years ago, and it kept going for 25 years, and then he decided to retire. Like this. Another example, they had been arguing about wedding ceremony for an hour when I came in, or before I came in. Now, my first sentence, they had been arguing. Actually, it's still here, but I want to look at what is important here, my grammatical structure. I saw had been and verb ing, so I can understand that this is my long action. And how I can understand from this sentence that it happened way before the second one is the usage of past perfect progressive. So that's why we don't necessarily have to use before. It's not necessary because before gives the meaning of that something happened first, before that. But our grammatic structure, past perfect progressive, already gives that meaning, so you don't need it. That's why when is more chic in this sentence. I'm looking at the second one. Oh, we have also for here. For an hour, again, a duration. And then after when I saw past simple, my verb to. We had been working on our project before we handed it to our professor. Now, I see that there are two actions again. One of them must be happened earlier. We had been working. Happened here. We had been working. It happened in a long time, in a while. So this is long action. Before we handed it to our professor. This is where we handed it. And this is now. I see verb to. This is short action in the past. And that's it for this sentence. Let's make a negative sentence this time. How do we make negative sentence using past perfect progressive? Subject hadn't been, verb ing. The only difference from affirmative sentence is that I added not at the end of had. The rest of the sentence structure is the same. She hadn't been working, or let me say studying, on her exam. That's why she failed. Okay, what I understand from that sentence is that actually there's no when, there is no before, but from the meaning of the sentence and also one of the sentences is being made with past perfect, we can understand that one of them happened first. But in this particular sentence, we don't necessarily need to put when, before, or after, because this sentence already explains itself. Now, she hadn't been studying and she failed here. Not studying. This is my long action. And the consequence from this action, we can assume that she failed. That's why gives reason. Okay, and one more affirmative example. I had been talking to the sailor all morning. There is no comparison in this sentence. There is not actually an action or another sentence that I can compare which happened first or which happened after or the last in the past. But in literary works, in literary works, we can see this past perfect or past perfect progressive usage often, pretty often actually. So when you see this one on a book or like whatever you read, don't be surprised. How long had you been staying in that house before you moved out? Okay, what I'm asking here is duration. In past perfect, that's why it means duration and past perfect. When they combine together, I use, of course, past perfect progressive. Looking at the sentence structure, I see that had is in the beginning of my sentence after my WH question, subject, been, and verb ing. I see before here our time conjunction and verb to past simple. What I can understand from this question is that that person we're talking about stayed in that house for a while in the past, and again in the past at some point he or she moved out of that house. They both happened in the past, and one of them happened earlier from the second action, this action. So I used past perfects here, so I can understand this is long action. And here, how can I answer? I had been staying in that house for 3.5 years before I moved out. The question is asked with you. That's why I answer with I. I used my had been because this is an affirmative sentence. Then my verb ing. In that house, I gave duration using for because the main question, what we want to learn from that question is this. I give the duration and before I moved out, verb to. So I can say that in the past, I stayed in that house for 3.5 years. Then at some point of time, again in the past, I moved out. Okay. How long had you been, or I want to say, had she been cleaning the house before you arrived there? Again, the question asks us, what we want to learn here in this question is duration. And in this sentence, I want to give the meaning of two actions happened in the past, but one of them happened before, way before the other action, and I am talking about a long action. That's why I used past perfect progressive. Again, had is in the beginning of my sentence after my WH question, my subject been, and my verb ing. Looking at the second one, I see before. That means after before. After this time conjunction, it will be verb to in the rest of the sentence. So if I want to make a timeline of the question, she had been cleaning for a while, but we don't know for how long. And then at some point in the past, again, something happened, a short action. This person that we're talking about arrived at her house. Let's answer. I'm looking at the subjects first. This is she, this is you. The question is asked to you subject, which is me. I will answer as I. She had been cleaning the house. She has been cleaning the house for half an hour before I arrived. I gave my answer here for half an hour. I gave what was wanted in the question, the duration, with for half an hour. And then I see before, which is verb to, which will we see verb to after that. And let's show this. For half an hour, she had been cleaning the house, and at some point in the past, I arrived to her house or there. Had you been singing before you became a famous singer. What I want to learn here is not duration. What I want to learn is that the question will be answered as yes or no. Here, past perfect progressive sentence, I put had first, subject, been, verb, ing. I see before, that means I will get a short action in past simple, verb 2. Became is becomes verb 1 form is become. It's an irregular verb. I can answer in two ways. Yes, I had been singing before I became a famous singer. No, I hadn't been singing before I became a famous singer. And a few more examples. Had they been running for 3 hours, when you saw them? Again, this is a yes-no question. I can answer in two ways. And what I want to learn here in this sentence, it is sure, it is known that they had been running. But we want to learn if they have been running for 3 hours or not. We want to know if this is correct or not. Again, a classic past perfect progressive question sentence. Had is in the beginning of the sentence. They, my subject. Been, verb ing. A duration. And after when, of course, I used past simple verb 2. This is an irregular verb. See, saw, seen. I can say yes, they had been running for 3 hours when I saw them. Or I can say, no, they had been running for 2 hours when I saw them. Or there's one more way to say or express the negative question here. Or I could just say, I don't have to correct the time. It would also be enough to say, they hadn't been running for 3 hours. Either I can correct it because I'm saying no to the given time. Either I can correct it or I can just say no, they weren't. They hadn't been running for 3 hours. And we will do more exercises. I had, or let's ask a question again. Had he been designing clothes for charity or shops before he became a famous designer. Now, again, we know the grammatic rules, but we will talk about the meaning of them and how it affects the sentence. I started with past perfect progressive question. I know that he had been designing clothes. That's for sure. But we don't know what for. For charity or for shops. We want to know what for. So I can answer in two ways. He had been designing clothes for charity, or I can say he had been designing clothes for shops. Now, we gave the two possible answers for this question. Now, I'm looking at my timeline. I will do both of them. He had been designing clothes for charity. Here, before he became a famous designer. This is my verb too. This has happened after designing clothes. Famous designer. Here, he had been designing clothes for shops. At this point, he become a famous designer. Had they been climbing Mount Everest before they won a prize? I'm looking at my first action. Had they been climbing Mount Everest? My head is in the beginning of my sentence, then my subject, then my verb ing. Typical past perfect progressive question structure. Second one, I saw before, which means I don't have to even look at here. There will be a verb 2, past simple sentence. They won a prize. I can answer yes or no. Yes, they had been climbing Mount Everest before they won a prize. Or I can answer like, no, they hadn't been climbing Mount Everest before they won a prize. Either they had been climbing or they hadn't been climbing. It was happening here, and here they won prize. This is my timeline. Now you remember that we used a lot before and after while we're using past perfect generally. And often in past perfect progressive. Actually, we studied this in the last lesson, but since it's very important how we use them effectively to give our sentence the meaningful structure, we should review how do we use them. We said after before we use past simple, which is verb 2. And how do we do verb 2? If it's a regular one, a regular verb, we added ed at the end of our verb. And if it's irregular, we are going to use the second form of our verb. For example, eat, ate, run, ran, drink, drunk, like this. And after, we use past perfect or perfect progressive, which is had verb 3 or had been verb 3. And how do we make our verb in the form third? Either, if it's regular, we add ed at the end of our verb, and if it's irregular, we use verb 3 form. For example, eat, ate, eaten, run, ran, run, or drink, drank, drunk, like this. And we said that we can use, for example, a sentence, the same sentence with using before and after. We can rebuild our same sentence and give the same meaning. For example, after I had collected all the pieces, I brought them together. Here I used after. And after our conjunction after, there is past perfect. My had and verb 3. This is a regular verb. That's why I added ed at the end of it. And after comma, the second sentence, I see verb 2, which happened later, the first action. That's why I used past simple. But I was talking about this. I can also rewrite this sentence using before. Before I brought them together, comma, I had collected all the pieces. These two sentences give us the same meaning. They both shows us that I brought them together here. And here, it's somewhere, but before that, I collected pieces. Both of the sentences give this meaning. After using before, I use my verb to, past simple. And after comma, past perfect, had and verb 3. She had graduated from university before she got a job. I'm looking at here. She had graduated from university. This is the action that happened earlier, happened first. First action. And this is got a job, second action. I used before here, and that's why after before, I used verb to. This is an irregular verb, get, got. Now I want to remake this sentence using after this time. After she had graduated from university, comma, she got a job. This time I used after instead of before, and of course after this conjunction, our time conjunction, I used past perfect. This is my verb 3. Since this is a regular verb, I added only ed. Of course, we have had. And in the second sentence, of course, we used comma, and then my verb to, past simple sentence. And in here, again, they both give us the same meaning. Here, she graduated. And here, she got a job. These actions both happened in the past, but this one happened earlier. This is the first action, and this is the second action, which happens later. Before I moved to Canada, I had made sure that I know their accent. Now, this sentence, actually, this particular example may confuse you because, again, we have two actions in the past, but there's a third one in this particular sentence, which is here. But before we explain this, I want you to look at, again, our past perfect and past simple. I used before here, and after that, my verb to, past simple, came. So I can clearly acknowledge that this is now, this happened here. I moved to Canada. But before that, there is another action that happened way before this action in the past. I had made sure. I see this comma, this is important. I use my past perfect, had made, an irregular verb, make, made, made. There's no problem till here, but when I look at here, you can see an irrelevant thing, you may assume. But this is actually not main clause, which means that this is not a main or full sentence. I made sure of something. In here, this is in the place of object. I had made sure that. This actually defines us this. That's why I don't look at the tense in here, because this is an object. So in here, the ultimate past using past perfect, I had made sure that my object. She had studied German before she settled in Germany. I'm looking at here. I can see from my tense that this action happened first, because this is past perfect, had verb 3. Since this is a regular verb, I only added ed at the end of my verb. She had studied German before. We said that after before, we get verb 2, past simple. She settled in. Again, I see another regular verb, That's why I only added ed, settled in Germany. Now I want to give the same meaning. I want to rewrite this sentence, but this time I will use after. After after she had studied German, comma is very important. After she had studied German, comma, she settled in Germany. Again, both of these sentences give the same meaning. We may use different conjunctions, but if we use them correctly, if we use them with the correct tense after them, we can give the same meaning. And both of these sentences show us that she studied German here, and here somewhere she settled in Germany, which means her studying German happened way before her settling in Germany. Had you been playing soccer before high school? I have a classic past perfect question sentence here. Perfect progressive. Had you been playing? I am asking for a duration. Had you been playing? A long action. Did you do this long action in the past? I see before, but after my time conjunction, I cannot see verb to here. There is no verb to. But there is an era given to me. So I can understand that what we're asking here is high school era is somewhere here, and what we're asking is if you, that person, had been playing soccer. Playing soccer. We have two possible answers for this question. I can say yes or no. I can answer as yes or no. Yes, I had been playing soccer before high school. Or no, I hadn't been playing soccer in high school. Sorry, before. Now, what I want you to pay attention to in this sentence is that we don't necessarily need a full sentence after before. Let me write it down. We don't necessarily need a full sentence or action after using before. As we saw it in here, before high school, had you been playing soccer before high school, this gives us an era, a timeline. That's why I didn't have to use an exact action, an action or a full sentence. Now I will add one more thing here, actually, before and after, actually. After dinner, we went to eat ice cream. Looking at this sentence, I cannot see a full sentence after this conjunction. There is not a full sentence here. But what we can understand from this sentence, from my time conjunction, is that dinner, this era happened here, and us eating ice cream, going to eat ice cream, happened here. So as you can understand from both of our examples and our notes, we don't have to use a full sentence after our time conjunctions before and after, because they already give us the meaning that they happened other times, not in the same time in the past. Now I will make a different question this time. I want to ask a negative question using past perfect. Hadn't she had a stepsister? I didn't. I haven't seen her since middle school. Actually, these are two different sentences. This will get and here I have a question mark. Hadn't she had a stepsister? This is my main question. It means that I almost remember something like she have a stepsister, but I haven't seen him for a while, obviously. So I can answer in two ways. But the surprising or the different part in this particular sentence is that we don't have a past simple here. Only we have past simple. Actually, no, we don't have past simple. But if we did, it would be after since. After since I get again an error. Hadn't she had a stepsister? I thought that I knew that she had a stepsister. Happened somewhere near here. She had or hadn't a stepsister. She had or hadn't had a stepsister. And I haven't seen her since middle school. Here, middle school, I haven't seen her since then. This is a bit complicated, but this one, a timeline, will help you understand better. Okay, when I thought, as I remember, she had a stepsister. But I don't know for sure, and that action happens here in the timeline. The last seeing her is the time was here in middle school, way after that. And I haven't seen her since. Why did I use present perfect here? Because I don't have the exact date. Yes, it's happened in the past, but I don't know the exact date in the past. That's why I cannot use past simple. And it's like from some time to this time. That's why I can only use since. That's why I used haven't seen her, which is present perfect. Let me finish this example as well, and that will be it for today. Yes, she had a stepsister. First had is the past perfect had verb 3'deki. And this one, verb 3. No, she hadn't had a stepsister. Okay, dear students, that's it for today. I hope you understood and enjoyed our lesson. See you on the next lesson. Take care of yourselves.